everyone, and welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the show in which I find out how to give my time to organizations and causes that I believe in. And be, I guess, legitimate about it? Or am I just a poser? Dunno. But I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dog Cat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Monday. Misconstrued Monday. I don't know why, but why not? I feel like I'm about to break into the a Disney song or something whenever I do that. A dream is a wish your heart makes. Something. Anyway, hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a good Monday. Or at least a tolerable one, as I know Mondays generally suck. But here we are, or here I am, to help unsuck your Monday. Yeah, just go with it. It's fine. It's fine, everybody. We'll be fine. Because today, I'm going to unsuck your Monday. I'm going to have to turn that into something. Unsuck your Monday with volunteering or voluntouring, using your privilege to empower. Volunteering or voluntouring? Don't know what any of that means, but we'll find out together. And who will find out all of this with me? Why, that would be the one servant of try that again. That one servant of Satania. Hello. Wade Waleson. Hello. Mr. No. Hello. Raziel. Hello. Johnny Stoffel. Hello. Kieverdam. Hello. Chicago Mike. Hello. Nobody Not Me. Hello. Dina B. Hello. Advocatus Diaboli. Hello. Robert Gruber. Hello. Somnamnul Nation. Hello. See, it takes a second for my brain to sort of kick into gear when I'm doing all the names and everything. And yeah, just takes a second. That's all. Big Assassinati, hello. Keenan, hello. Jason, the Ultimate Wizard, hello. Megan Ring, hello. Mike R, hello. Who's next? Tux Mint, hello. Non-Vitae Rex, hello. Thrashy, hello. Luke Skywalker 2, hello. Check Your Logic, hello. Ethan Robbins, hello. And then who else? I'm in a singing mood now. Robert Pincus, hello. Shio Gorath, hello. Corey Suzuki, hello. Jonathan Peterson, hello. Zero the Hero 909, hello. Did I miss Mike Savage? I didn't see Mike Savage. I had this strange compulsion to want to say, well, a particular word that I can't really say until he shows up. So I guess I won't. Moonbase Security, hello. I'm looking. I've become dependent on it. It's almost like part of the routine now. Oh my God. Zalbla, hello. All right. Well, maybe he'll show up later and I'll be able to say the thing. Ken Lee, hello. Chicago Mike, thank you so much. New t-shirt, Unsuck Your Monday. Yeah. Unsuck Your Monday with Scribelight. Thank you, Mike. Okay, well, anyway, guys, yes, volunteering or voluntouring, using your privilege to empower. I can guess as to what this is going to be about, but I honestly have no idea. But let's find out together. Be sure to have your bingo card ready. Link is in the description. We'll see where this goes. I'm curious. And as usual, I'll start off with a few seconds for sound check. You guys tell me if you can hear this, and then we will proceed. Apparently our speaker today is Kate Orr. Kate Orr? Kate Orr.
By a show of hands, how many of you here have ever taken part in any volunteer work in another country?
Volunteer work in another country? No, I haven't. I've done volunteer work before, but in another country? No. See, I was worried that my thumbnail little message tripping out was going to be incorrect for what she was going to talk about. There wasn't actually going to be travel involved. Whew. Now I'm calmed down a little bit because we are talking about travel to some extent. All right. So how many of you have volunteered in another country? Says little loud, says Chicago Mike. Is it? Well, I could turn it down on mine a little bit, but it'd probably be easier if you turned it down on yours, I guess. I think, if I remember correctly, the recording tends to get quieter as it goes, so this might be a temporary thing. But anyway, everybody says sounds great, so continuing. And look at that audience. Well, look at that audience. Boy, that is not a packed house. But anyway, we got 1, one raised hand there, and I guess one there, or that's somebody's face. I don't know. Anyway.
Than I expected. Great. By a show of hands, how many of you here think that you are interested in or likely to take part in any volunteer work in another country?
Okay, well, for the first question, obviously my answer is no. I've never volunteered in another country. How likely am I to do so in the future or something? Pretty much zero. It's not that I don't care about other people or care about volunteering necessarily, but traveling to volunteer sounds like a very expensive endeavor, unless it's being paid for, I guess. Like if you're doing, what is that, Job Corps or AmeriCorps or something, then you're kind of volunteering, but they're paying for it. Anyway.
Excellent. You are not alone. Every year, 1.6 million people volunteer overseas.
That's very exciting. Lexi Mads says I need to rewind everything because she just arrived and she's very important. Well, okay.
By a show of hands, how many of you here have ever taken part in any volunteer work in another country? More than I expected. Great. By a show of hands, how many of you here think that you are interested in or likely to take part in any volunteer work in another country?
All right, that's where we're at, Lexi. That's approximately where we're at when you arrived. So I hope you're all caught up now. All right.
Well, excellent. You are not alone. Every year, 1.6 million people volunteer overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And so a term has been coined to describe this new growing trend in travel.
Uh-oh.
It's called voluntourism.
Oh, new buzzword already. All right. Free space, circling that one, and attempt to coin new buzz phrase. I know she's not taking credit for it, but I'll tell you what, I'd never heard of it before this, so I'm going to take it anyway. So there you go.
So to help us to understand this term and to find a useful definition, naturally, I did what every great researcher does.
Yes.
I headed straight for the Urban Dictionary, which defines it as, heaven help me, yet another nasty new noun.
What?
The unholy marriage between volunteer and tourism.
Is that actually the definition from the Urban Dictionary? Well, I'm glad our speaker has gone to the source for accurate terminology, but okay.
Voluntourism, an act carried out by voluntourists, is when hordes of generally the great unwashed backpacker brigade descend on a place to have a jolly nice holiday, usually at precious little cost to themselves, and do the occasional bit of good work.
Wow, what a bunch of selfish jerkwads. How dare you go somewhere else and help out for a little bit? What should they be doing otherwise? What is okay, so voluntouring sounds like the morally detestable version of volunteering. Is that what I'm getting here? Okay.
Looks good on one CV as a gap year activity.
Yeah, maybe it does. Maybe it is that cynical. Maybe it is. Does that make it bad? What is the appropriate or, like I say, morally righteous alternative?
So rather than leave it there, I continued my search, and I discovered that whilst there's no agreed definition between organizations in what voluntourism is, in his book, Tie Up the Lion by Ross Young, he provides this alternative useful definition.
An alternative definition to a word you first looked at on the Urban Dictionary. So this word really doesn't mean anything. I mean, it could be as condescending. Now, see, when I was first looking at this video and I wasn't sure if it was about travel, my thought was the tourism part, the touring part of the volunteering was like she said, somebody who goes to give their time or their energy to something for show. right? Just as a casual thing versus someone who's volunteering because they believe in the movement or the project or whatever's at hand. So, the difference between somebody who's going to give community service for a school project versus somebody who, of their own volition and because they believe in the idea, goes and donates their time to a soup kitchen or something, right? The difference between volunteering and voluntouring. That was my sort of notion, a believer versus a poser. And I guess that still kind of applies here, except we have an international aspect to it of actual travel is combined with the whole touring part. So here's the thing, though. Apparently my definition isn't any more or less valuable than whatever she's saying because she doesn't have one definition for it. But regardless of the definition, I can already tell that one is an approved method of activity and another is a condescendingly hollow version of an activity. Why we need more definitions for it, I don't know.
A voluntourist is a person who pays to participate in a volunteering program.
Then that's not really volunteering, is it? Well, I guess it is volunteering. I mean, paying to volunteer. They're electing to take part, so I guess they're still volunteering their time. And if they're going to another country, I'm assuming they're paying the plane ticket.
Usually in a country that is not their home.
Okay.
For a varied period of time, whilst providing a variety of services to the organization they are volunteering for.
Okay, all of that sounds perfectly fine.
During the program, the person participates in leisure and tourism activities in the country in which they are staying.
Is it that last part that makes it bad? That they're sort of killing two birds with one stone? They go to a foreign country to experience that country and at the same time volunteer their time to assist in something? Should it only be one or the other to be a honest person?
I myself have been on several such trips.
Oh, so you've been a voluntourist. Okay. I'm still waiting. Is that a bad thing?
And so I'd like to discuss with you today how this industry can be both wonderful and life-changing, truly beneficial to both the volunteer and the local participant.
But, or however, or some other, yeah.
And it is possible to use our privilege to empower others.
Our privilege to empower others. Well, if I'm paying money to buy a plane ticket to go to another country, and I plan while I am in this other country to both be a tourist and to volunteer my time towards someone else's movement or organization or something, then yes, I guess the conditions of my financial situation provide me a certain amount of privilege that I am then using to empower others, both economically and through my own labor, because I bought the plane ticket and I'll be a tourist over there. So I'm buying somebody's goods and services over on their side of the aisle. Okay, you don't really have to push that hard to convince me of that phrase in the context you're giving us. In fact, I think it's kind of unavoidable, but okay.
But how often this is not the case, and there can be more harm done than good.
I got people in the chat saying self-vilification. Yes, and also privilege. You're right. Sorry, I took a second there to take a sip. Okay, so privilege we're circling, certainly. Self-vilification. Because she herself has participated in these things. She hasn't outright said yet that being a volunteerist is a bad thing, though. Her tone has implied it. I still need to hear her get a little bit more specific. That's all. So we'll see. Like give it a minute. Give it a minute.
Naturally, when considering taking part in a voluntourism placement, the majority of people will prioritize the benefit that the experience will have on themselves.
Yes.
Before considering the impact it will have on the community they are working with.
So self-consideration is bad?
Most companies will place the priority on the personal development and enjoyment of the volunteers.
That's how you attract customers. That's how you attract paying customers. There has to be a what's in it for me answer to that question. If you're basically a tourism company with a heart of gold, you still need to give the people coming to your services an incentive for wanting to go, and not just, hey, we're going to send you to a foreign country to take part in manual labor for 3 weeks. Doesn't really sound very attractive, does it?
Even if that has a detrimental effect on the local community.
How?
Now, they appeal to motivated and well-intentioned young people who have a passion to make a positive contribution to the wider world.
Uh-huh.
And whilst the desire to do good is, of course, commendable,
Of course.
it should never supersede the importance of ensuring that the local people are indeed benefiting from the exchange.
Okay. I'll give you that. It shouldn't be a completely exploitative sort of endeavor, sure, but I'm still waiting to hear how my traveling to country X to both be a tourist and to help is inherently a detriment to country X, because if I'm being a tourist, I'm spending my money in the community as a tourist, either in lodging and food, entertainment, souvenirs, the whole 9 yards. What are you talking about?
And discovering what they think about the intervention.
Zanwild says, the only international volunteer work I have done is in Central America, house building mission trip. There was zero tourism. It was hot, hard, brutal physical labor that left you too damn tired. Yeah, and I know that those things exist. I'm not saying that people never do those things or would never do those things, or there's not organizations that set that up. Sure. And, some people find a lot of satisfaction in doing that. Honest physical labor for the benefit of others. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's in case there was any confusion. I'm just saying if you're a company that is that's trying to advertise to people that you have a package that includes tourism for the volunteering as being a component, well, obviously you're going to have to play up some part of the tourism to attract people who aren't just interested in doing the hard work for its own sake. So I'm still not sure where our speaker's going, because you're catering to different demographics. The demographic that wants to see the world and help, and then the demographic who just wants to go and help. They're different people, like different things, and are interested in different stuff. It's fine. I don't see why she has to talk down upon one versus the other. Thank you, tall person. Happy go to an art museum today day. Well, they certainly picked the wrong year to celebrate this day, huh? Thank you, tall person. Okay. Some emulation says, don't talk about my package. I wasn't talking about yours. I was talking about the travel company.
Often, voluntourists are required to have little to no training for the role they're about to carry out.
Okay, so voluntourists should be required to be certified in something before they participate? Okay.
You could travel abroad and immediately become a teacher, a builder, a medic, a vet, and more.
Really? Really? I could become a medic just by going on one of these trips? I could become an engineer or a veterinarian? Really? Just like that, without any certification? Wow. I did not know that there were travel, tourism, volunteering companies out there that were so reckless as to do such a thing, as to put an untrained person into a medical situation. Okay, thank you, Mikhail Driving 8 Man, for the communistic thumbs up. Thank you. Chicago Mike, thank you again. I know a lot of people, mostly relatives, who visit Cuba as a volunteer. Yeah, like I say, I can believe that both types of people exist. People who are just, are dead set on helping people for its own sake, and people who, I like a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. That's fine. But okay, so I can become a doctor in another country without any kind of papers, you say, because I took a tourism trip?
You can replace local workers and expertise as an untrained, unpaid volunteer.
I could. I'd be surprised if anybody would put me into a position where I was acting like a doctor without some medical knowledge.
How would we feel if we knew that a team of inexperienced, unqualified people from abroad were coming to our country to teach in one of our schools?
Well, if it was me, or if I was, like, say, in charge of the country, I'd probably have something set up to verify their qualifications before putting them in charge of such things, or having some kind of entrance requirement that they prove they have the skills necessary to fulfill the role they're going to be in. I'm guessing you're talking about countries that don't do that somehow?
It would never be allowed to happen.
What country is this being allowed to happen in? Okay, I mean, maybe there. I'm sure there are. I bet there are countries with requirements and policies so loose as this could actually occur. Where are these countries? Because you would think the solution to that problem would be petition those countries to strengthen their requirements for entry into such things. So where is this happening?
And so if we don't have the abilities and the qualifications to perform a role in our own country, we shouldn't permit ourselves to perform it elsewhere.
That sounds reasonable. And I would be very concerned if I took one of these trips and somebody said, hey, you're going to be a doctor. I'd probably go, no, I'm not. So what? I'm confused.
As people in a developed nation,
yes,
we shouldn't be guilty of assuming that we have the answers to the problems and challenges facing people in countries we've never even been to.
Okay, you're pushing at an open door on this one. I agree with everything you're saying. The problem is I'm having a very, very, very difficult time believing that what you're saying actually reflects reality. I would love an example. Give me an example of a country that has absolutely no problem with effectively strangers coming in, taking on roles they are not necessarily qualified to take on, especially medical roles and engineering roles, and then be allowed to act in those roles in communities that need help. I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen. I would just like an example, an active example, instead of your just say so, because what you're saying sounds incredible, which doesn't preclude it from actually happening. But there's that whole credible part.
Before considering the capacity that the local residents of a particular nation have to solve their own problems.
Why is it the tourism company's problem to solve the problems of the country that they're sending people to? Shouldn't that be the responsibility of the people in the country where the people live? Who are you complaining about at this point? Whose responsibility are you petitioning here?
We need to consider the real issues and whether we are the right people to create long-term solutions.
Voluntourism companies need to reconsider this, or just volunteering abroad, we need to reconsider this, because I'm assuming those people who volunteer rather than just volunteer are also put in these same situations, that the dividing line isn't, well, in addition to building this house, I'm also going to go check out the local, museum or I don't know, landmark or something. What are you talking about?
In an article entitled "The Problem with Little White Girls and Boys."
Okay, I have a feeling I'm going to be circling make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason, so I'll just do that now. And I'm getting ready to circle leaves out vital context because I have absolutely no idea what she's talking about to this point.
Why I stopped being a voluntourist. Pippa Biddle illustrates this point perfectly.
Ooh, perfectly. Okay. Illustrate the point. What was the point again?
During her time in Tanzania, she paid to build a library that was part of an orphanage.
During her time in Tanzania, she paid to build a library that was part of an orphanage. Did she pay for the library, or did she pay to go there to help build the library? I know I'm being very, very nitpicky here, but I'm really trying to make sure I know the chain of events and what's going on, because recently, as of the last TEDx, some facts were relayed so quickly that I wasn't quite sure what timeline I was in.
But her and her team were so bad at basic construction that every evening after they left, local men would come in, take down the bricks that they had spent 6 hours building, rebuild the structure, and then come back the next day as if nothing had happened.
That sounds absolutely ludicrous. First and foremost, that your friend or the author of this article or whatever and her team, who had absolutely no experience from your own description in building things or being masons, would even attempt that, at least without guidance. Is this an anecdote that probably never happened? Okay, this lady wrote an article, so she's not... If she's telling a story of something that actually happened, I can't circle anecdote that probably never happened, because our speaker is telling us something that was in an article written by somebody else. So unless the story in the article is vastly different, substantively, irate bear, from what our speaker here is telling us, I can't circle that square. But I'm going to listen to the rest of the story.
She says, it would have been more cost-effective, stimulative of the local economy, and efficient for the orphanage to have taken our money to hire locals to do the work. But there we were, trying to build straight walls without a level.
Why did you volunteer to do that? I mean, here, I'm gonna freeze frame on that again. If somebody wants to be a little research partner for the show real quick, that is the name of the article and the author. So given the fact that it's somebody else's story and our speaker is apparently reading it, I can't say it's necessarily untrue or never happened. It sounds stupid enough that someone would go somewhere and be so full of self-confidence and or arrogance that they would do something they have no training to do, and then afterwards decide maybe it would have been better if. And I agree. If that's actually true, that was a stupid endeavor by the author of that article, first and foremost. What that has to do with little white girls and boys, I don't know, which is why I circled make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. And I know our speaker didn't write this article, but our speaker was very excited to tell us why this article illustrates her point. So that's on her.
The work, but there we were, trying to build straight walls without a level. And this ridiculous story isn't a one-off, and it illustrates the point that these teenagers were not the right people to perform this role.
So over-enthusiastic, passionate, but brainless teenagers were set about building the wall of a library. And amazingly enough, it didn't work. I would like to know who organized this little project and how quickly they were fired for incompetence. Because that sounds like the most stupid thing I've ever heard. Maybe not the most. It's one of them. So, what? What does this have to do with anything? Would it have been somehow different if the people there weren't tourists? I mean, should volunteering in other countries only be undertaken by people who are trained professionals in XYZ PDQ? I mean, I guess it depends on the circumstances. What did you expect these people to do? If they were told, you're going to go here and build a library all by yourself without any tools, who agreed to that? What do their parents say? I have so many questions, and I'm getting ready to the circle leaves out vital context.
So I want to tell you about an organization that are challenging the voluntourism industry.
Okay. This wouldn't have to be an organization that you're directly involved with, would it? This wouldn't be a glorified sales pitch on a TEDx stage, would it? Thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. This is what happens when you don't research the organization you're aiding. The wall story is the exception, not the rule, possibly an old story. Yeah, I can't say that story is inherently false because it sounds stupid enough to be true, depending on who arranged it. I've heard of dumber things happening with tourist groups before. So, yeah, but okay. Tell me about this magical organization that does it all right, where the one example you've brought up so far does it wrong.
And they offer us a model in how we can get it right within the field of education. I'm a primary school teacher.
Oh, a primary school teacher. Okay.
I've been teaching for 10 years,
okay.
Mainly in year 6. And for 5 years, I've also been involved with limited resources teacher training.
Limited resources teacher training. Okay.
LRTT do not send over inexperienced volunteers to offer short-term education projects like so many others do.
Okay. I mean, I've had friends who've traveled to other countries to teach English before. They didn't have any educational degrees, but they had to pass through a whole bunch of tests on, language competency and some other things too. So, or at least have a degree of one sort or another. But okay, unlike every other voluntourism company, yours actually checks qualifications before sending somebody off to do a particular role. I don't know how true or false that is. I don't know how loose the standards are in voluntourism companies, so maybe she's right.
We believe that every child has the right to a quality education, regardless of the context they are born into.
Yes. Okay. Not exactly a innovative belief or mission statement, but okay, agreeable.
Yet, half of the children in schools are simply not learning.
Half of the children in schools everywhere? I guess I could believe it in that I'm sure that standards and quality of education and so on in many places in this world aren't exactly great. So are you talking about just like elementary schools? Because I know you're did she say she's a preschool teacher, primary school teacher? All schools? Like colleges and universities as well? 50% of all? Okay, I don't know.
Around 387 million children were on track to leave primary school unable to read or write or do basic maths.
In the world? I don't know how many school-age children, primary school children there are in the world at any given time. So maybe that's a correct number. Or half of the correct number, I guess. So I'm confused.
Which led to UNESCO declaring a global learning crisis in 2015.
Okay.
As they recognized that there is a desperate need to find innovative approaches to train large groups of teachers to get every child learning.
Okay, well, that is an ambitious goal, an ambitious and righteous goal. And
during our 3 to 4 week long fellowships,
fellowships, which for those of you listening at home, she just put into air quotes. I don't know why she's downplaying her own participation in this thing, unless we're about to find out it was all BS, I guess.
We bring together teachers from economically developed countries to upskill and empower teachers in contexts where people are living on less than $5 per day.
Okay, so you bring in effectively subject matter experts to help educate and train up people who are in the same professions elsewhere but lack the resources or perhaps the education themselves, and can hopefully impart them with better skills or knowledge to do their jobs better. Sounds perfectly fine. Advocates Diaboli, Scribe Light, circle benevolent condescension already. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, benevolent condescension. It certainly fits. Let's go over the card real quick while we're at it. Takes credit for something done / experienced by others in their demographic. I mean, her demographic, I guess, could be considered primary school teachers or just educators in general. I don't know that she's taken credit for anything because she's separated herself from other organizations with her own. So it's not really taking credit. Systemic institutional. Well, she's talked about the voluntourism industry being flawed. So in the aggregate, that's effectively systemic. I'll circle that one for the heck of it. Equity, no. Well, unless you talk about the equality of outcome for the kids' education. But that they deserve a good education. That's, I consider an education an opportunity mechanism, not an outcome mechanism. So I'm hesitant on that one. Childhood or family anecdote, she hasn't talked about herself. Toxic, no. Plays victim, not yet. Microaggressions, unconscious bias, maybe. Contradicts own point or argument. I don't know what point or argument she's made yet. I mean, the voluntourism industry is flawed because they don't send people who are trained in the subjects necessary to complete the tasks they're tasked with. And the examples that she's given, such as they are, I guess backs that up. Plus just basic common sense. You wouldn't send a math student to go do a engineer's job or something, or medical job or something. Yeah. Or like me being an English major should probably not be a brain surgeon in a different country. Okay, legitimate. Patriarchy, no. Weightless example, not yet. I mean, everything's applied. Wage gap, no, not yet. Feminism, no. Marginalization, not specifically. A list, no. Her slides so far have been quotes and such. White supremacy, we'll see. Word salad, I'm looking at it. I'm thinking probably by the end of this. Self-vilification or wretchedness, I can't circle that one. A lot of people saying that previously, that she's done this before, but she's talking about how she's doing it right. So mind reading assumes motives. Well, I'm going to give her a little bit more rope on that one to see if she says something else about some of the other people that do this kind of thing. Anecdote that probably never happened. As far as I know, the only anecdote she's given us is that article story, and I haven't had anybody tell me that that was false. Leaves out vital context. I'm going to be circling that by the end of this for sure, because she's like not giving us enough information on what it is that she's talking about or why in a lot of places. So Kieverdam, ready to pounce on word salad. Yeah, no, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay, so right now I have circled systemic, institutional, privilege, free space, make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason, attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, and benevolent condescension. We will. See, Kenley says, born into the wrong context. Word salad. Maybe. Let's give her a little bit more. Mr. Unite for the Children says, the article she quoted is funny. The author was surprised to find out she wasn't the perfect volunteer because her white privilege skills weren't what was needed for construction, etc. LOL. Yeah, that's why she wasn't qualified to do what she was being put to do. Okay. And then my video suddenly died. That was interesting.
By a show.
Okay, I don't know why that happened. Let's try that again. We were at 7:40 something. I'm glad I saw the timestamp before that dropped. All right, we'll start here.
Upskill and empower teachers in contexts where people are living on less than $5 per day. We create teams of 15 to 30 teachers from around the world to co-design and deliver coaching programs to teachers in 11 different countries, including Tanzania, Uganda, India, Nepal, and more.
Okay, you've got the elevator pitch down. I believe you that there are some shady tourism/voluntourism companies out there that will try to sell you a tour package with some volunteering in there that you're not necessarily qualified for, just to get your money, just to get you to go along. I can believe that there is shadiness in the travel industry. And your organization is better than that. Okay, good, great. How is this not just one giant sales pitch? I mean, that's fine if it is, I guess, but list. Yes, you're right. There was a list. Sorry, I got distracted by having to fix the video. Yes, a list of all the things and all the services they provide. Circling list on the bingo card. All right.
I was first a fellow in 2015 in India.
Yes.
It was my second time to India.
Okay.
The first was as a tourist, where I saw the beauty and the life of the country, but also the poverty and the real need there.
Did you feel guilty for touring around other people's misery? Oh, tell me that you did.
And so it was a joy to return 5 years later as a professional with the skills that I needed to empower and support local teachers in Rajpura to get all of their children learning.
All of their children learning because they weren't able to learn without your presence. Tell me again about that whole white privilege, white savior complex I'm told is so terrible. I mean, I certainly hope that you did help the teachers with getting a better education to the students. I just sense a little bit of, I don't know, arrogance in that last statement.
I wasn't there to teach.
You weren't there to teach. I thought you were there to teach the teacher how to be a better teacher.
Which would have had a very small and finite impact.
Yeah, probably because you couldn't speak the language, but okay.
I was there to observe.
You were there to observe.
And to learn.
And to learn.
And then to run training so that...
I'm not there to teach. I'm there to observe and to learn and then to run training. Okay, so you are there as an efficiency expert to observe, critique, and then correct the teachers in that country. Right. Okay.
That those teachers can give their students the best education possible.
Okay. I suppose, depending on the circumstances, a little bit of, I don't know, rational arrogance might be understood. If you're going to a place that has an exceedingly poor quality of education or educational resources, and you're coming in with an obviously more robust educational background and so on, and trying to train people up or trying to give advice or to try to impart something that they couldn't have otherwise in their country. I guess there can be an unavoidable amount of, we're obviously in a better position than these people, so we're trying to help because we have the ability to. Okay. But could you not make it sound like you're just God's gift to teachers the way that you're speaking? A little bit of arrogance and a little bit of condescension sounds like a lot when you're coming to it in this angle. It really does.
In fact, there was only one time that I ever remember actually teaching a lesson.
Okay, if she's distinguishing between teaching as interacting with the children as a teacher, educator, and training as interacting with the adults who are the teachers, okay. She didn't teach. She didn't stand in front of a classroom full of kids and act as the teacher. If that's her distinguishing definition, okay. Would have been better if she'd been a bit more clear about that, but I'll accept that if that's what she means.
And that was completely by accident.
You accidentally taught something, okay?
I walked into the classroom, notebook in hand, ready to sit at the back and observe my new colleague and friend demonstrate all the new teaching strategies I had taught her.
You were there to gloat over your brilliance as a trainer? I know. I'm looking at the exact, probably worst possible interpretation of what she's saying, but at the same time, her attitude so far has kind of led me there.
And I was fully ready for the warm sense of pride and satisfaction to wash over me.
Uh-huh.
But as I sat down, she stopped teaching, looked at me and said, "You teach."
Yeah, probably because in the course of your training her, you corrected her so many times and told her that everything she was doing was absolutely wrong that she decided to show you up. That's my guess. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she'll give some more details there, but that'd be like okay, smart guy, you do it. That's kind of what I get from that little interaction. Thank you, John Miller. She would make a terrible secret shopper. Okay. How did this story go? And you know what? Depending on the outcome of this story, I'm not necessarily going to circle anecdote that probably never happened, depending on how this goes.
Now, what I realize now is that I should have just said, "Oh, no, it's okay. I'm here to observe. You teach the lesson that you've planned."
But you just couldn't help yourself, could you?
But that's not what I said.
No, I can totally believe that's not what you said.
I stood up and heard myself say, "I'll teach you a song. It's called I Like the Flowers."
That sounds stupid enough to believe, honestly.
Which is what I did for 20 minutes.
You spent 20 minutes teaching children in India a song. Okay.
Until I finally had the courage to hand the teaching baton back to her, sit down, and complete the lesson observation.
She's not listening to herself, is she? How ridiculous this sounds. I mean, again, maybe in the next few seconds we'll be given extra context. Maybe she had a conversation with the teacher afterwards and something was said that clears this up. But to my mind, this teacher in India was run ragged by this pompous, self-absorbed, arrogant foreigner telling her how to do her job. And when it came time to actually, quote unquote, practice what had been preached to her, she said, "Hey, you do it. You're so smart." And she taught a song for 20 minutes. That's how I imagine this went. And it's much more hilarious that it seems, again, our speaker just doesn't seem to fathom exactly what happened. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Freebird. Yeah, exactly. You're going to teach a song. Teach Freebird. And thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Can I circle story that hopefully never happened? You do you on your own bingo card. I got to hear what happens next in this story. I'm dying to know.
And that moment did come, that moment of pride when I saw the teacher trying a new strategy that we had been working on. And you see the students respond with engagement and enthusiasm.
Okay, now that part might be the anecdote that never happened.
For me, there's no feeling quite like it.
Yeah, okay.
So my role was not to replace the teachers.
Your role was not to replace the teachers. You don't want to do the work. You just want the teachers to act and behave just like you do. You know, I'm circling anecdote that probably never happened. I mean, her interpretation of what the outcome was of all that, and that suddenly everything was a panacea because of her lesson plan. Just on principle, I'm circling anecdote that probably never happened, because that was just too much. And honestly, I don't think that my interpretation of what the teacher in India was doing versus what our speaker's interpretation of what was going on, I don't think I'm necessarily far off the mark otherwise. So, yeah, I know. I'm very talented at pausing the video at very awkward images of the speakers. So, yeah.
That I was working with.
Yes.
It was to empower them so that after I left, their new skills and knowledge could continue indefinitely and have an impact on every student they subsequently taught.
I'm circling mind reading assumes motives, as though she has any idea of what effect any of that would have had on anybody into the future. And we're probably going to hit a bingo here pretty quick, because she's left out plenty of vital context. I'm kind of waiting for, if we find the coup de grace, so to speak, of that one, I'm waiting for it. But we're almost assured of bingo by the end of this. Thank you, Adebisi. I'm listening 50 minutes in the past. Hi to y'all. Hi, Adebisi.
As a teacher in the UK, my professional development has been consistent and continuous from the point of my qualification. I will receive around 30 hours of CPD every year.
CPD, oh, professional development. Okay, yeah, all right.
And it's not always gladly received, I'll be honest, especially if it's the end of a long day of teaching 10-year-olds to care about the difference between the past progressive tense and the past perfect tense.
Wow, you sound so enthusiastic about your career just then. Oh, okay. After having seen the conditions of teachers in other countries that lack the resources and education that you've been blessed with, don't you have a sort of heightened perspective on the, I don't know, just how fortunate you are in your position to have people that are putting you through professional development and so on? This lady is a very confusing subject.
But I'm privileged in that sense.
Oh, yeah, okay, but you're complaining about it like it's a burden. Do you actually accept and believe that what you have at your fingertips is a privilege, or don't you? Because it sure sounds like you're complaining after having gone to countries where they would kill for even the slightest bit of advantages that you end up with in the country you were born in. So is it really a privilege, or is it a burden that you bear?
Whereas the teachers that we're working with, they have very limited teacher training.
And yet you're still complaining about having professional development resources available to you and teaching 10-year-olds about past tense versus it's. Okay.
So let me show you a little video about the work that we do.
Okay, now I don't know what this video is. If music starts playing, I might have to skip over it because I don't want to risk some kind of copyright claim. So we'll see where we go, guys. If I have to skip over something, I apologize, but I didn't watch this ahead of time. Anyway, for those of you following at home, a slide has come up that says volunteering with real impact. I'm assuming this is not a boxing camp. Ah, dang it. Okay, so I don't know what music this is. I don't know who owns it. I'm going to have to skip past it, guys. I apologize. It's the best I can do. But for reference, the T-shirts that the kids and the teachers are wearing are all LRTT. So this is a promotional video for the organization that she works for. But I don't know about anything, images, music, or otherwise that might be copyrighted, so I can't use it in my video. Just the luck of the draw, guys. This might be the rest of the video. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, it's not. Let me get to a point where it's just her on. Okay. Sorry about that. Had to skip a couple of minutes worth of video. The perils of live TV.
So since its foundation in 2012, LRTT has worked with over 2,000 fellows to partner together with 25 different local education authorities.
Is that fellows in air quotes, or are they actually fellows in serious now? Because I don't know which it is.
To bring together the expertise from teachers from 40 different countries. We've been working with over 250 primary and secondary schools to empower and equip over 3,750 teachers.
All of her attitude aside, I can't find anything inherently bad about that. Good for them. Okay. Is this a TEDx or this is a sales pitch? Well, it's obviously a sales pitch. Or it's a humble brag. Or both, I suppose.
As a fellow on my first project,
Uh-huh.
I wildly underestimated the impact it would have on my own teaching.
Oh, really? Well, do tell us how your own teaching improved to the point where now you're complaining about professional development and also the 10-year-olds you have to teach grammar to.
And can honestly say it's the best professional development I've ever had.
Oh, okay. Teaching kids how to sing a song for 20 minutes as though that's meaningful. Okay.
We can return to the classroom in September, knowing that we've empowered other teachers, but also feeling very empowered ourselves to be the best teachers that we can be.
Be all that you can be. Okay. Well, I'm sure you feel very proud of yourself. I can already tell that you feel very proud of yourself.
So my hope from today is that you will feel enthusiastic and excited about using your privilege to empower others.
So privilege in this context is defined as professional skills. Because so far, the only thing I can draw from this is that if you go to a place, another country, in order to volunteer your effort towards a particular goal, and you do not possess the skills necessary to effectively achieve that goal, then you are not privileged, or you're using your privilege incorrectly, and that the correct use of privilege is to go to places and do things that you are qualified to do. Is that what privilege is? Is it? I mean, I'm confused. Did the girl that went to Tanzania to build the library, even if she was building the wall incorrectly, was she not using her privilege to try and help people? It might have been ill-informed. It might have been incorrect. But she took her time and spent her money to go somewhere else to help people that she didn't have any obligation to do so. Was that an incorrect use of privilege? I'm just trying to understand definitions of terms here, since we opened up with that from the Urban Dictionary.
But if you are considering taking part in a volunteer abroad scheme, I hope that you will consider 3 questions before doing so.
Oh, well, if we didn't have a list before, we have a list now. And also a volunteering abroad scheme. Maybe, use of particular terms in Britain is different than the United States. Obviously it is. But scheme always sounds to me like a con job, like some kind of criminal enterprise, which maybe they are. I mean, there can be shady tourism companies. All right.
Question 1.
Yes.
How will your involvement benefit the local community?
Well, conceivably, I will have done some research before choosing where I'm going and what I'm doing. So I won't know unless I know what it is that they need to have done and whether or not I can contribute to that. But if I'm as full of vim and vigor as you are, then I assume, let's say for a second, what have I got? I've got an English degree. Okay. So conceivably, I could be rudimentally. Okay, never mind. I take it back. I'm not even qualified to go teach somebody English. But let's say hypothetically that I could pronounce words right now, despite the pepper jack, and I could go somewhere and teach somebody something about language or English or something else. Okay, how would my involvement benefit the local community? I could go somewhere and messily teach people how to speak English to a certain extent. Okay, that's my hypothetical.
This question is vital.
Yes.
And any organization that you are considering working with should be ready to answer this question fully.
I completely agree. That was one of my sort of curiosities at the beginning of this. If you have tourism or voluntourism companies not checking first to see if the people they're sending to another country are actually qualified to do what they're being sent over there to do. Again, I can believe that there are companies out there that do not have such standards. I have a hard time believing that the countries of destination likewise have such low standards, or the communities thereof, but then I don't know how that operates.
Question 2.
Yes.
Is the program bespoke to the community you are working with and ready to meet the specific needs of the area?
Again, very good question to ask and to verify. Before you give a company your money to send you to another part of the world, do research on that company and ask questions. If you just blindly go into something and giving money away, well, you get what you pay for or not. Thank you, Chicago Mike. This is a 2-beer talk. Well, I've just finished my pepper jack, and I think I'm already done.
Often with these organizations, they have a one-size-fits-all approach, and you can carry out the same work in dozens of different countries. But this cannot be beneficial and create long-lasting solutions.
Yeah, if this entire presentation was to give us the dangers of the voluntourism company, I guess maybe she's made her point. But I don't know. It's been half education, half warning sign about voluntourism.
Lastly, do you have the necessary skills to participate in the program and make the desired impact?
Well, again, I would have to know where I'm going, what I'm doing, or what I'm being expected to do, and so on. And hopefully I wouldn't volunteer for a job that I'm not qualified for. But obviously our article writer, who was a teenager, thought better of it. I'm curious as to who was supervising all that. But yes, those are all fine questions to ask yourself and or the voluntourism company you're about to give your money to take a trip somewhere to do some good and dine some local cuisine. Okay.
Do travel. Do feel passionate about using your privilege to equip and empower other people. But do your research.
Yes.
Thank you for listening.
Okay. So this was one part warning about the voluntourism industry, one part advertisement for a particular voluntourism organization, and one part patting oneself on the back for the wonderment that they've done themselves. Sounds like a TEDx. Thank you, John Miller. Sold. How do I become a volunteer con artist? Okay, going over the bingo card one more time. It takes credit for something done by others, experienced by others in their demographic. I don't think so. Nothing quite applied there. Equity. Like I say, if you really were generous, you could say that her mission to provide a quality education to all the children in the world. Again, if you're being very generous, I don't see that as equity. So I'll sit on that one. Maybe somebody's got an argument otherwise. Childhood or family anecdote. She never talked about herself much, at least not as far as her personal life. Toxic, no. Plays victim. Yeah, because she was like complaining about, oh, I have to go through this professional development after teaching 10-year-olds past participles and that. Yeah, okay, plays victim. I don't think that's going to get us a bingo, so I'm not worried about that one. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. Not really. And I'm not going to count the title of that article she read. I already did that for Make Something About Race, et cetera, for no reason. And she never gave us why the white part was necessary in the whole conversation. She alluded to it maybe, but anyway. Contradicts own point or argument. Her argument was voluntourism companies are not necessarily helpful or know what they're doing when sending people along. And I can believe that there are shady tourism companies out there that do that. So if the point of her argument or the point of her presentation was to promote positive and productive voluntourism, I don't think she contradicted herself. I'll take arguments elsewise, but patriarchy, no. Weightless example. You know what? The whole her doing the song in the class, that whole thing, you could have taken that out of the deal and nothing would have changed. I have no idea why she did that. Just to give us a funny anecdote or something, but that just showed that she didn't actually teach anything. She was asked to teach. And so instead of teaching, she dodged it and taught a song for 20 minutes. So yeah, I'm circling weightless example. I have no idea what that was supposed to do for her presentation at all. Wage gap, no. Let's see. Keeverdam, Scribelite, Luke Skywalker says she contradicted her own argument because she said she taught one lesson. That one lesson doesn't contradict anything because it wasn't a lesson. Teaching kids a song, no. Sorry. I mean, it might be a cute little thing to do. That doesn't come to an educational experience to me, in my eyes. Unless the class was like Cultures of America or Cultures of the Western World, Britain or something. Yeah. Wage gap. She talked about the economic differences between people in one country and the other, but that's not a wage gap between, demographics or something. That's just world economics. I'm not really up on circling that one. Feminism, no. Marginalization, not that I recall. White supremacy. She talked a lot about privilege. She didn't dwell on race so much. And you can argue the article that she used and everything, but she didn't dwell on race as much as I would have assumed otherwise. So, and all of her examples that she used were people from all over the place, volunteering, etc. So I'm hesitant to circle white supremacy. Word salad. When somebody said born into the wrong context, I understood in context what that meant. Born into poverty, born into economic despair, something like that. That I understood. I can't count that as word salad. I'm iffy on that one. You guys let me know. Self-vilification or wretchedness, I didn't detect anything in there of her vilifying or wretchedness in herself at all. When she talked about having done the voluntourism thing before and maybe having a bad experience or something, that just sounded like regret. That didn't sound like somebody who was being apologetic. Last one, leaves out vital context. I'm willing to circle this one, but I'd like to hear from you guys. Give me some specific examples where she left out vital context, and then we'll go. So I'd like to give this one over to you guys. Let's see. Lexi Mads. Yeah, but that proves you send over people and ask them to do a thing they're not qualified to do. Of course, she botched the anecdote because she was a teacher and was qualified to teach. Yeah, that's true. Lexi Mads also says white supremacy is all over this. Again, you could infer a lot, but aside from the title of the article that she quoted from, she never brought up race. Never really. So class, she certainly brought up, certainly. Yeah, you could say class she brought up, but not white supremacy specifically. Let's see. And Lexi also brings up the article. I know that the article exists outside of this. She only quoted one part and one story. So I can't say that anything in the article applies to this TEDx elsewise. That's all I got to say on that one. I'm going to scroll up a little bit. Let's see. A Scanner Daftly. What did the Scanner Daftly say? These people have terrible fashion sense, all of them. It depends on the TEDx. It depends on the TEDx. Let's see. Chicago Mike, the part about teaching the song, there was context missing. Yeah, there was. I know. And that's my go-to example, is that there wasn't any kind of conversation with the teacher after the fact. She didn't, her interpretation of the events or what was going on there. Because why would the teacher there just suddenly say, you teach? In my mind, she was saying, put your money where your mouth is, Miss Smarty Pants. And then what'd she do? She taught a song. Advocates Diablo. Yeah, there was context missing when she's asked to teach what exactly she asked. So yes, at the very least, that story sounds very, what do the kids say today? Sus. So circling that one, let me put the bingo card in the window for you guys to see, because strangely enough, look down at the bottom there. Well, what do we have?
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
So there we have our bingo, guys. I don't think we're going to get to another one. I'll take a couple other minutes here for you guys to give me any arguments. Takes credit for something done, experienced by others in their demographic. I don't know what that would be. I need a really good argument for that. I could still see word salad there, but then I don't think we can get equity fairly. Let's see. Some Emulation says, well, shit, I didn't write down a specific example of leaves out vital context, but I circled it early on. You weren't this picky with Weibo, Scribelight. I gave Weibo a little latitude because she was the guest and had never seen this before, etc. But I still required some stuff when it came down to actually getting a bingo, and we didn't get a bingo, did we? So let's see. Lexi Mads, there's a follow-up article and I love it. Thank you, British lady. Okay. Some Emulation, just kidding, Scribble. I know, I'm kidding too. Just another Smith. She could have given a breakdown as to the reasons of the poor education other than economic. What are the daily struggles faced by the populace just to survive day to day? Quality of education comes down to more than just necessarily the quality of the educator. There's a whole bunch of other factors that go into it. And simply, don't get me wrong, helping or advising a teacher on some things that they don't have access to or whatever doesn't hurt in any way, shape, or form. It's not a panacea, though. All right, there's a whole bunch of other things going on there. So I don't want to completely discount what our speaker is promoting, because it's inherently a good thing if you can bring resources and knowledge and everything that someone else just simply doesn't have access to, and provide that to them or network with them for that kind of support. Certainly, that's great. At the same time, though, she was a little bit full of herself, which doesn't help the situation or her sales pitch. And let's see, Renovatio. She reminds me of someone from a HR department, soulless, drier than a martini, extra dry, the kind that walks into a room of employees and talks about synergies, right sizing, then fires everyone at Christmas. And Green Death says, Scribelight, I still think there should be a box for turns into a sales pitch. Yeah, I've been thinking about a couple of possible replacements here. I'm looking at replacing equity. Someone came, I forget what, off the top of my head, thankfully it was recorded. Somebody came up with a decent pitch yesterday for a new square that I'll have to think about. And sales pitch, maybe. Sales pitches aren't all as common as you'd imagine, though, in TEDx talks. They're actually relatively rare. But I'll think about that one. Let's see. Oh, follow-up article. Okay. Lexi Mad, Scribelight. Hilariously, a British woman pulled the author of the article up on the race issue and said, quote, "You Americans make everything about race," unquote, LOL. And Pippa had to switch her focus to privilege. Ah, I see. Well, it's good that somebody had to double check themselves before they wrecked themselves. Anyway, guys, there we are. We have our bingo. We have our TEDx. Not an unpositive message from our speaker. Unpositive rather than negative. I don't know. I'm making up words. Why not? Urban Dictionary it. But presentation of the speaker of her own volition, her own attitude was, entertaining a little bit. I really do hope, fingers crossed, I really do hope that that teacher in India really was saying, okay, smart guy, you do it. That's what I really was hoping going on there, because she never really explained why that happened. She just gave as positive a spin on it as you possibly could, which makes me think that, yeah, she was put in her place, at least for 20 minutes singing a song. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you very much for your participation. As you all know by now, half of this show would not work without you guys there to double check me, argument with me. Thanks, Pepperjack. Argue with me, debate with me as we work towards our various bingos. And everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. As has been demonstrated in the last couple seconds at least, it'll all go towards horrible things I'll put into my body between goldfish crackers and Jack Daniels to insulate my brain from the next TEDXcellence. And thank you, Chicago Mike, for the last minute donation. Thank you so much. Oh, the Dogcat Fox. Good job. Good job, Dogcat Fox. If you would like to hear more from me or Satsu 2 Cents or the Ranting Monkey, you can find all three of us tonight on Satsu 2 Cents' channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for The Lords of the Night, where we will talk about the news of the day, news stories that you submit, what we've been up to on the internet, and then your comments and questions. Everyone, again, thank you so much for coming out. I hope you all have a good rest of your Monday. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll talk to you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.